The 1980 Kennedy half dollar is not just a coin. It is a silent witness to one of the most emotional chapters in American history and one of the most complex transitions in modern coinage. Its story begins not in 1982 itself, but decades earlier, rooted in tragedy, national mourning, and the desire to preserve the memory of a fallen leader. To truly understand the importance of this coin, one must first understand why the Kennedy half dollar exists at all. On November 22, 1963, the United States was shaken by the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The shock was immediate and global. Within hours of his death, conversations began inside the U.S. Treasury about how the nation could honor a president whose life had been cut short. Jacqueline Kennedy, personally, supported the idea of placing her husband's portrait on a circulating coin, believing it would serve as a daily reminder of his ideals, leadership, and vision for America. This decision alone elevated the Kennedy half dollar beyond ordinary currency. By 1964, the first Kennedy half dollars were minted. Composed of 90% silver, the coin was immediately hoarded by the public, not because of its face value, but because of its emotional and symbolic worth. People kept them as keepsakes, souvenirs of grief, and tokens of remembrance. This behavior set a pattern that would follow the Kennedy half dollar for decades. It was meant to circulate, yet it was repeatedly pulled out of circulation by the people themselves. As time passed, economic realities forced changes. Rising silver prices led the U.S. Mint to reduce silver content. By 1971, the Kennedy half dollar became a copper-nickel-clad coin, similar to the quarter and dime. However, even after losing its silver, the coin did not lose its identity. It continued to represent memory, continuity, and respect for history. This brings us directly to the year 1982. The 1982 Kennedy half dollar was struck during a unique and often overlooked period in U.S. coinage history. That year, the United States Mint did not produce any official mint sets due to budget constraints. As a result, all 1982 half dollars were struck strictly for circulation, making high-quality examples significantly harder to find today. This single fact alone makes the 1982 issue more interesting to collectors than many other modern half dollars. In 1982, the U.S. economy was undergoing change. Inflation, unemployment, and shifting monetary policy defined the era. Cash was still king, yet the use of half dollars was already declining. Vending machines, parking meters, and cash registers were increasingly designed around quarters, not half dollars. This practical limitation pushed the Kennedy half dollar further into the background of daily commerce. Even though it remained legal tender, despite its declining use, the design of the coin remained unchanged, preserving continuity with earlier decades. The obverse features Gilroy Roberts' left-facing portrait of President Kennedy, dignified and calm, surrounded by the word liberty and the national motto, "In God We Trust." The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, displays the presidential seal, an eagle holding arrows, and an olive branch, symbolizing both strength and peace. These elements were intentionally left untouched, reinforcing the idea that some symbols should remain stable even as the world changes. What makes the 1982 Kennedy half dollar especially fascinating is its quiet survival. Unlike rare-era coins or limited commemoratives, it does not scream for attention. Its value does not lie in extreme scarcity or precious metal content. Instead, it carries historical weight through continuity. It represents an era when America was learning to move forward while still holding on to memory. Collectors today often overlook circulated 1982 half dollars, yet this is precisely where their authenticity lies. Worn edges, softened details, and surface marks tell a story of real-use hands exchanging it in grocery stores, banks, and post offices. Each circulated coin is a physical record of trust in a national system and participation in everyday economic life. Uncirculated examples, especially those with strong strikes from the Philadelphia or Denver mints, are increasingly appreciated for their condition rarity. Because no mint sets were issued, finding pristine coins requires careful searching through rolls or old collections. This has given the 1982 Kennedy half dollar a quiet but growing reputation among knowledgeable collectors. Beyond collecting, the coin holds cultural meaning. It bridges generations. Older Americans remember the day Kennedy died. Younger generations encounter his image through textbooks, documentaries, and coins like this one. The half dollar becomes a teaching tool and object that invites questions, curiosity, and historical awareness. In a world rapidly moving toward digital payments, The 1982 Kennedy half-dollar stands as a reminder of physical money's emotional power. It is not programmable, trackable, or virtual. It is tangible history. You can hold it, feel its weight, and understand that it once passed through countless hands, each carrying its own story. Ultimately, the 1980 Kennedy half-dollar is not about wealth, it is about memory. It represents how a nation chooses to remember its leaders, how currency can carry identity, and how even the most ordinary objects can become extraordinary through history. Long after its purchasing power fades, its story remains engraved in metal, waiting for those who are willing to look beyond face value. As the years progressed, the 20-euro-cent coin gradually began to gain a new kind of attention, not from everyday users, but from observers, collectors, and researchers who started to see beyond its face value. While it was never intended to be rare or luxurious, its consistent presence across decades turned it into a reference point for studying economic behavior. Economists analyzed how often coins, like the 20-cent, circulated compared to smaller denominations, revealing patterns of consumer spending, inflation sensitivity, and regional usage differences across Europe. In this way, the coin evolved from a simple medium of exchange into a silent carrier of European life. One fascinating aspect of the 20-euro-cent coin is how differently it is perceived, depending on context. To a child, it might represent a small treat. To a commuter, a ticket machine necessity. To a tourist, an unfamiliar yet accepted piece of metal. And to a collector, a dated artifact tied to a specific mint and year. This layered meaning gives the coin cultural depth far beyond its monetary role. Unlike digital numbers on a screen, the physicality of the coin makes value tangible. It can be held, weighed, heard, and remembered. The coin's design itself also reflects deeper symbolism. The common European side, shared by all Eurozone countries, emphasizes unity, stability, and interconnectedness, while the national side reinforces diversity. This dual identity mirrors Europe's political and social structure, where cooperation exists alongside sovereignty. Over time, as new countries joined the Eurozone, the growing variety of national designs on the same denomination visually documented the expansion of the European project. Each newly minted 20-cent coin quietly announced another chapter in Europe's shared story. In times of technological acceleration, when contactless payments and mobile wallets began to dominate, the 20-euro-cent coin refused to vanish. Instead, it became part of a hybrid system where old and new forms of money coexist. Street musicians, charity boxes, parking meters, and small cash-based transactions continue to rely on coins. This persistence highlights an important truth. Innovation does not always replace tradition, it often builds on it. The continued circulation of the 20-cent coin demonstrates that simplicity still has value in a complex financial ecosystem. From a historical perspective, future generations may study this coin as a symbol of transition. It belongs to an era when Europe moved from fragmented national currencies to a shared economic identity, yet before money became fully digital. In museums and archives, a worn 20-euro-cent coin may one day be displayed as evidence of how ordinary people experienced monetary unification, not through treaties or headlines, but through daily transactions. Its modest appearance will contrast with the magnitude of the change it represents. Ultimately, the true importance of the 20-euro-cent coin lies not in speculation or exaggerated prices, but in continuity and presence. It has survived economic cycles, political shifts, and technological revolutions without losing its purpose. It reminds us that history is not always made by rare objects or dramatic events. Sometimes it is shaped by small, consistent elements that quietly connect millions of lives. So next time you see a 20-euro-cent coin resting quietly in your hand, don't rush to spend it. Pause for a moment, because you're not just holding metal, you're holding a story shaped by history, trust, and unity. This coin has crossed borders without a passport, survived economic storms without fear, and witnessed generations change without ever losing its identity. Long after prices rise, systems evolve, and digital money takes over, this small coin will still whisper the same truth. History doesn't always shout. Sometimes it lives silently in your pocket. And the real question is, will you ever look at your change the same way again?